Alright, let's talk about livestock guardian dogs. I know a lot of people are looking to get a livestock guardian dog for their farm, and they're wondering what they should know ahead of time, and if they should get a livestock guardian dog, or if they should go with other ways to keep their livestock safe. So let's just get right into it. Let's look at some considerations that you should take into account before you decide to get an LGD for your farm. And that way you can decide if it's the right choice or not. Okay, so first thing, do you have the time? LGDs require so much time and so much consistency and so much patience, especially in the puppy stage. They are needing to learn a lot of expectations and boundaries. For example, you might want to consider teaching your dog not to pull wool. You might want to consider teaching them to come, to stay, to lay down, to sit. All those simple commands, just like you would with any other puppy, I think is really important for them to learn. And you also, in my opinion, need to teach your dog to bark, not incessantly. Barking is a self-rewarding behavior, and it's really important, I think, to teach your LGD that, yes, I want you to bark when there is something close by in the yard that requires chasing away or scaring off, but I don't want you to continue barking for hours and hours and hours beyond that. I think you also need to teach your dog how to be kennel trained or crate trained. Even if they are an LGD, there's going to be times where they need to go to the vet or they need to be locked in a crate so that they don't move as much. And I think it's important that you put the time in to teach your dog how to do that. Even if they are a farm dog, it's still an important skill for them to learn. Your pup, what's acceptable, not acceptable behaviors. You need to teach them that it's not okay for them to jump up on you, that it's not okay for them to play with the stock, to roughhouse with them. And that's going to require a lot of supervision and a lot of consistency on your part. You might need to tether them. There's lots of different training methods that you can use for an LGD, but the basic thing I'm trying to get across is that, especially in the puppy stage, LGDs do require a lot of time. They need to be taught how to go in and out of a vehicle. They need to be taught with being able to go to the vet and not be completely terrified and be tolerating a strange person petting them, touching them, looking in their mouth, that sort of thing. And they also need to be okay with coming in the house from time to time. Not saying you need to bring your dog in the house every night and consider them a house pet, but they do need to be able to be okay with coming in the house from time to time. Even if you get an adult dog that's already started on livestock, you still need to consider that they're going to require time and training even when they get here, because the stock they were with before was their stock, and now they're with new stock that is not their stock, and they need to bond with it and become accustomed to it and understand who their new owner is and their master is. So there's still time involved even when you get a started dog. Next thing, are you firm enough and clear enough? LGDs really require a black and white training style, no gray area. They need someone that's very clear with what they want and sets up expectations and boundaries right from the start and isn't tiptoeing around them. They're going to require a lot of consistency, no ifs, ands, or buts. This is what I expect from you. This is what I want you to do. I will not accept any other answer other than that. And so I would also say that an LGD is really not for a first-time dog owner. They require someone with some experience and some confidence, especially with disciplining their dog and elevating their discipline as required. So you need to think, are you the right person to do that, or do you think that you're confident in becoming that person? Next thing is, are you ready for how intense an LGD is? They are a very intense dog. Not your average dog, that's for sure. When we first got our Sharplananak Nora, when she was 6 months old, it was actually kind of intimidating and scary, to be honest with you, how intense she was. Just the way that she would look at you with her eyes was a little bit freaky. And then just other behaviors that she has when a stranger comes into the yard, we had to do some serious training to teach her that it is not acceptable for you to be lunging and barking at people right in their face. So that also requires a lot of getting used to. If you're not used to a dog like that, that's very intense, that knows their job and knows it well right from puppyhood. They are dominant personalities towards people and other dogs. They like to be the boss, they like to be the alpha, they like to have control of the situation, and they like everything to be calm. If there's a dog that comes in that is really hyper, in your dog's face, egging them on, doesn't have a lot of manners, an LGD might put up with it for a short period of time, but it won't take very long for them to get in there and tell them to calm down. And they will do that in a way that's pretty aggressive and pretty intense, so you need to prepare yourself for that. You will not be able to have dogs over that get in their face. I call them the fun police. If you have two dogs playing together and they're getting a little bit too amped up, LGD will step in and cut that out. Another thing to think about, I guess, like in regards to this LGD being intense thing, is they usually don't get along super well with two dogs of the same gender, especially if they're intact. So if you have two intact males or two intact females, wouldn't be the best thing, in my opinion, to do, especially two intact females more than anything else, is they decide that they don't like one another, and that's the end of that. Even if you get an intact female and a spayed female, or vice versa, sometimes it just isn't a good pairing, so you need to be aware of that as well. If you have little dogs, be careful of that, because like I was saying before, if there's a dog that is a little bit too high of energy or that's really rude, they will put that dog in their place regardless of the size. So I would be careful if you have a little dog that maybe is lacking in the manner department, because when they put them in their place, they're not super nice about it, and you might be setting yourself up for a dog that has an injury. One thing that we do is that we try to get people to text or call before they come and let us know they're coming, so I can either put the dog away or be out with our dog to supervise their interaction, so that I know that my dog isn't going to go freaking out, barking in their face and all that good stuff. I don't really want my neighbors to be terrified of coming over, but I also want them to know that my dog has a job to do, and her job is to guard our place from strange people, strange animals, and strange things. Let's talk about some certain traits that LGDs are actually bred for, and some of these traits might be seen as bad because they are traits that you really wouldn't want in a pet dog, but you really want in a livestock guardian dog. They are not, like I said, they're not your average dog. They're bred for certain things. They're instinctually going to act a little bit different than your pet dog, and that doesn't mean they're bad, it just means that they were bred for that. So some things that might be considered bad would be barking, wandering, aloofness to strangers, and protectiveness. So you have to remember that livestock guardian dogs are not bred to be family pets. They're bred to do a job, and their job is to guard livestock or their people or whatever they're supposed to be guarding. But the point of this is that they're supposed to be bred to guard stuff, guard things and animals and people, all that kind of thing. So when they're doing their job, they're barking when a stranger comes. They are not their best friend. They maybe don't like other dogs coming onto their property. Wandering. LGDs tend to wander. They like to expand their territory, and they like to make sure that there's nothing coming in, even from far away, so they like to just double check, and they will wander quite a ways. So when they do that, just remember that they were bred for hundreds of years to do that. If you wanted a family pet that was going to be great with other dogs coming over, that was going to be loving to all the kids that your kid has over, all their friends, all that good stuff, probably shouldn't get an LGD and expect them to do that. So just don't be surprised when they show these traits, and maybe warn your visitors not to come around unannounced. And you're also going to have to prepare yourself how to deal with these. You want to give your dog expectations and boundaries. So the barking thing. Yes, they are bred to bark. Yes, they are bred to bark at things to scare them away and let them know that there's a dog in this area and they need to leave. But I find that all dogs, but especially LGDs, will bark incessantly if they are allowed. So say there's a coyote that comes in the yard, they will bark at it, scare it away, and then they will keep barking for hours on end to let any other neighboring coyotes or that coyote know, do not come back, I am still here. In my opinion, I don't like that. I don't like listening to a dog bark all night long for absolutely no reason. So I like to train my dog, once that thing, whatever you're barking at, is gone, you need to hush. We don't need to have incessant barking. Barking can be a self-rewarding behavior. So just, that's as an example. You need to set that expectation up clearly for your dog. And like the wandering thing I said, there's definitely some ways that you can avoid that. So proper fencing that will keep your dog in, or tethering them as needed, or the wireless dog containment systems, or constant supervision. Those are all things you can do to deal with it, but you have to be aware that this is a problem that is going to be there for LGDs, and you need to be prepared with how to deal with it. You cannot just leave your dog in your yard and expect them to stay home. Trust me, I was of the opinion that if I did boundary training and I did the leash walking around my property and all that good stuff, that my dog would stay home. No. LGDs are always testing their boundary lines, and they're always wanting to expand their territory. If they're intact, if they're in heat, they will leave to go find a boyfriend. So keep that in mind if you're planning to have LGDs, that you need to have a way to contain them on your property, especially if you have neighbors. Here's another thing that I'm very passionate about, so please bear with me if I get a little bit heated in this topic. But what is not an LGD? Okay, there are a lot of people that I see marketing dogs that are not LGDs as LGDs and expecting people to not have issues with it. So you get breeds like St. Bernards, Bernese Mountain Dogs, Golden Retrievers, any of the herding breeds. You get people marketing those as LGDs, or crossing those breeds with, say, a Pyrenees or a Maremma or a Couvaz or such, and expecting them to be an LGD. Let's just get right into it and say any LGD crossed with any other dog that is not an LGD should not be trusted to perform as a livestock guardian dog, but especially if they're crossed with a herding breed. If you get a Pyrenees crossed with a healer, that's a no-go to me. You have a confused dog and you are setting yourself up for disaster because you just don't know what to expect. When you get two separate breeds that are bred for two separate things and combine them, the mix of those two breeds is going to be of one you just have no idea what's going to come out of it. You have no idea if that dog is going to get the herding trait or the guarding trait or both or none. You don't know. I would just not set myself up for failure like that. If you have the option, which you do have the option, to get a full LGD, and that doesn't mean you have to get a purebred, it doesn't have to be registered. You don't have to go out and get a dog that is a purebred Pyrenees. You could get, say, a Pyrenees crossed with a Maremma, or an Anatolian crossed with a Couvaz, or whatever. As long as you have a full LGD, an LGD crossed with an LGD breed, at least you're setting yourself up for more of a success. You're taking on way less of a risk than you would be with an LGD crossed with anything else. Of course, there's always exceptions. You're always going to get the person that says, well, but I had this kind of dog and they were fine and they did everything I expected them to. That's great. I'm happy for you. But I would never ever tell someone else to go out and try to make that same scenario happen, because the chance of it failing is so much higher than the chance of it succeeding. So I would just never tell someone to do that. And then another thing to consider is you see all these people on Kijiji and Facebook and all these places selling their Rottweiler crossed with a Pyrenees or whatever other breed and selling them as great guardians. No, not great guardians. Those types of dogs are not bred to fearlessly guard their stock and make sure nothing comes in that pen. They're just not bred for it. And for those people to say that they are going to make a great guardian, it's like a false advertising. They have no idea what that dog is going to become. And anyone that breeds a dog like that and says something like that, run away. Run away from them. Go find a good breeder that's going to help you and that's there for their puppies that they produce and that stands behind what they produce. Because in my opinion, and some people aren't going to like what I have to say, if you get anybody that crosses those types of dogs together or any other breed, golden retriever, boxer, whatever, they don't care about the end result. They don't. Are you going to see that person come to your farm in the future when you're having issues and try to help you fix it, or take that puppy back, or if they have some kind of genetic health condition, that they're going to offer you a new dog that's going to actually guard your stock? No, I don't think you are. Once you have that dog in your property, that's the end of it. It's yours to deal with now. So I wouldn't even chance it with a dog that isn't bred to be a livestock guardian dog when you have the option of getting a livestock guardian dog. Just set yourself up for success and get a livestock guardian dog. So moving on. Breed. What kind of breed of LGD should I get? I will give you one tip of advice that'll help you narrow down your decision. The breed of LGD is much less important than the breeder. Okay, so remember that all LGDs are really basically bred for the same thing, and that is to guard stock. Pick a good breeder. That's number one. Pick a good breeder. Because if you get a reputable breeder, they're going to stand behind what they produce. They are going to be there every step of the way. They're going to help answer questions. They're going to know the different lines of dogs that their dogs come from. You're going to know that you get a dog from proven working lines that is actually doing the job that they're bred for. So let's say your dog, a year from after getting it, develops a genetic kidney condition that you weren't expecting. And you contact your breeder and you say, hey, my dog has this condition and the vet says it's genetic. Have you heard of this happening, and what can we do about it? If you get your dog from a good breeder, they're going to look into it. They're going to research more into their lines. They're going to say, hey, I've noticed quite a few pups that have that condition. They might even call that line altogether and stop breeding it. They might offer you a new pup, or they might take that pup back. Those are important considerations for me when I'm choosing a breeder. I want someone that really cares about what they produce and the future of their pups, and even the future of the farms that their pups are going to. I would hate it if I sent a pup to someone and they're doing all the right things and they're putting all the time in, all the training in, they've done all their research and they're really trying, and they just end up with a pup that just is not working out. I would hate to say, oh well, you bought it, you deal with it, end of story, have a nice life. That just doesn't sit well with me. I would love to have a breeder that, is willing to try to come up with some kind of solution to deal with those issues. Think of things that they need to do themselves, like health testing their dogs, x-rays that lets you view the parents, that you can see them working, you can see what they look like, how they move, that sort of thing. And then another thing too, just your breeder doesn't charge more for a rare color, because color doesn't produce a good LGD, and color doesn't indicate a dog that's going to be good at their job. You could have a white Pyrenees or you could have a badger-faced Pyrenees, and that doesn't mean one or the other is going to be better or worse. So they don't charge based on color, whereas a lot of your other pet breed dogs I see charge more for, say, Merle over a fawn colored dog. I don't think that works out well in the LGD world because, like I said, you just can't guarantee that one color of dog is going to work out better than the other, and that's kind of the point of getting an LGD, is to guard your stock. It doesn't matter what they look like. Yeah, so thank you for listening to that kind of rant, kind of informational video. I hope that I didn't get too heated in some of those topics, but it is something that I'm very passionate about, and I've been wanting to take this video for a while. So I appreciate you guys all watching, and I hope that it helps some of you in your decision to get an LGD, or maybe you've decided now that an LGD isn't right for your farm. There are plenty of other avenues that you can consider to help guard your stock that work in a lot of situations, but if you've decided that a livestock guarding dog is the right fit for you and your operation, I just wish you all the luck in the world, and I hope that this video provides you some insight in what you should do and some avenues that you should go down. So once again, thanks for tuning in to our video, and I appreciate you guys all watching. Please like and subscribe. I hope to do more videos like this in the future. And yeah, take care.